We're live yet?
Yeah, we're live. There we are. Hey everyone, I'm Martin.
I'm Shelley.
Yep, and we're coming to you tonight from the middle of snowpocalypse, Ozarks version. And I was just looking at my my weather app here and to see just exactly how cold it is. And it is 10 degrees. And we've got snow, we got blowing snow outside. And if you're watching any of the news, it's cold.
It's crazy.
Getting really cold around here. So anyway, it's Tuesday night. I have to apologize. Last week we tried, but I don't know. It was raining last Tuesday night, and we couldn't seem to get. There's nobody there. We couldn't seem to get the feed going, and I don't know. I think the rain was maybe affecting our internet connection. I don't know. Regardless, I mean, we tried, but after about 30 minutes, we gave up because hey, Ken, how you doing tonight?
Hi, Ken.
Sorry about last week. We tried. I was just explaining that we had we couldn't seem to get a good connection last week. And so we went for about 30 minutes and realized that it wasn't going out. So we stopped.
If you know, Ken, if it goes out, type in there so we at least can tell.
So it seems to be running
going.
okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow, and it's still snowing a little bit. So
yeah. So how's things in Texas? Anyway, last week we were kind of talking about some of the basic sort of preps that you can do, and no problem here. Waited about 30 to 45 minutes. Oh, last week. Yeah. I don't know. It just wasn't working. Anyway, so we were kind of trying to talk about some preps for crisis, and it didn't go out. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. And ironically, we've got a good example of one going on outside our back door right now. Yeah, and we were watching the news. We've got the news on up here, and some weather, and we're in Southwest Missouri, and there's a highway that runs from, or interstate that runs from Springfield up to St. Louis called, was it 44?
44. Yeah.
And they've got traffic backed up there for miles and miles and miles.
Two semis collided,
and so terrible. There's people stranded in the middle of the interstate, in the middle of nowhere out there tonight, and there's just really not enough responders to rescue them all. And so if you went out tonight on highway or on Interstate 44, you're dealing with being stranded out there, and for who knows how long. It's going to get in the teens Thursday night in South Central Texas. Yeah, it's going to be brisk down there. Be ready for it.
I talked to my sister, and she's in Minnesota, and she said it's below zero there.
Yeah, I think 13 or 14 below zero.
I was seeing that Minneapolis, the wind chill is going to be minus 60. That is cold.
That's cold. Yeah, so I'm going to tell a story real quick before we get started on this. Years ago, probably 40 years ago, maybe 35, 40 years ago, a friend of mine, his name is Marty, and I we had this tradition. We would go out hunting and camping on New Year's Eve weekend, whatever that weekend was, where we were off work. And it was in the middle of the winter time, and it was in central Iowa. And, a lot of times the weather was decent, and we had a big wall tent that had a wood stove in it. And so most of the time when we went out on our New Year's Eve weekend campouts, it was tolerable out there. And, but we went out one week or 1 year, and it was kind of drizzly rain when we went out, and it was real mild, like in the 50 degree range, something like that. And we got the tent set up, and it was late in the day. And as we were getting ready for night, the wind started picking up, and it started getting colder and colder and colder, and the rain kind of turned to a freezing rain, and it was coating the outside of the tent, and the wind got stronger, and pretty soon it was sleet, and then pretty soon it was snow, and the wind was blowing and howling, and by the next morning, when we woke up, the real temperature, just the real temperature was like 25 below zero, and the wind chill was like 55 below zero. We had been camping out in that, and the wind would blow. The tent had become rigid from all the ice that was on it, but the wind was just shaking it really bad. and it shook it so bad a couple of times in the middle of the night. It shook the stovepipe off of the stove in there. So then the tent was filling up with smoke, and we were trying to get the stovepipe back on. We were running it as hot as we could. It was a small one, and we could only run it. I mean, you can only put so much wood in it, and so we had to put our gloves on and get a big blanket to kind of put the stovepipe back on. And that was an all night thing. We got up and hunted a little bit that next day, and it was so bad that we just finally gave up and went home.
You guys were crazy.
Yeah, we were. But anyway, that's kind of what we're going to talk about is last week, we had, there was so much going on about the price of eggs and all of that, and eggs aren't that big of a crisis, I guess, but it's sort of a symptom of other things that are kind of going on. That is kind of a crisis. And so, being prepared for that kind of stuff. So if you have not done so already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to the channel. And that way you'll get notifications. And so let's get into this. Right now we've got, since the storm has blown up so fast, here, let's see what he's saying. Originally from Northern Illinois. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
We've got some business up in Rockford, Illinois, and so we've been up there in the middle of the wintertime in Rockford. And no.
I thought one day it was like 17 below zero. I go, Martin, what are we doing here? We live in Missouri. Why are we here?
So right now, I mean, let's just we'll talk a little bit about. We're going to go into kind of some food preparation because that can kind of be a crisis as well. And it sort of is with the eggs on a small scale, just with that. But we'll start, since we're having all this weather out here, we're going to start with that. And, when we decided to come down here to this place, part of what we really wanted to do is create self-sufficiency. I mean, you've heard me talk about it over and over and over again, but part of that has to do with being self-sufficient when it comes to weather-related events. And down here, I mean, we're experiencing right now almost exactly what we would expect to see here in Southwest Missouri. A lot of times it's ice, and it doesn't get so cold, but then occasionally it will get like sub-zero, like it's going to be the next couple of nights. And so when we built our cabin down here, all of those things kind of goes through my head, as we're planning down here, and so we designed this cabin around, what happens if it gets sub-zero or we get ice and the ice takes out the power lines. Now it can't do that here because all of our power lines are buried, but it could do it upstream of us. Yeah. And yes, part of that was one of the preps that we did was, when the electric company was down here, they said, well, we're going to have to clear out a path from the highway up the hill all the way down to your cabin. That's going to be 60 feet wide. You get no trees, no nothing in there.
We didn't like that idea.
I didn't like that idea. I want to be out in the woods.
Yeah.
And they said, well, no, he understood. He says, if I live down here, that's what I wouldn't want to do it. He says, so if you go ahead and you don't have to clear the land. If you can bury a conduit in the ground, we'll bring the cable down through that.
That was a job just because it had to be so deep, and then it was raining, and then we had all them rocks to deal with.
Yeah, it was high voltage, so it had to go real deep, like 4 feet deep. And
it was a job.
So we dug that in, and that eliminated any kind of possibility of trees, taking out power lines due to ice, at least down here. Now, once you get to the highway, all bets are off up there. So, but of course we have the solar plant and all that kind of thing, so we really don't worry too much about it. But that was part of the thinking process of being prepared for the things that most likely occur. And really, wherever you're at, that's kind of what you have to plan for, is the things that most likely occur. We don't have to prepare for volcanoes around here. We just don't. So we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But the things that do happen down here, you need to have that in the forefront of your mind when you're starting, because, we call, what's happening right now a crisis. It's not for us. I mean, we're sitting in the cabin. How warm is it in here?
Nice and warm.
It's
probably 75.
Probably 75, 78 degrees in here. And I mean, we're in our t-shirts and stuff like that, so it's warm. And but that's part of that whole prepping ahead of time, because if for example, I don't expect it to, but if for example the power went out down here, we actually wouldn't even know it. I mean, our lights would stay on and everything would be fine. And but we know that every year, that's one of the things we have to be concerned with in our being prepared for the next crisis. And so as we're looking at this, we're seeing that they're talking about 150 million people right now, tonight, are going to be below freezing, and a good portion of those are going to be pushing down below zero. And if you're not prepared for that,
that is not safe.
And the people, I mean, I really feel kind of badly, because we've been stranded out on the highway before. That's why we don't go anywhere anymore when we're having
snow,
0 degree temperatures. And because we have been stranded on the highway before, and that's not fun, because everything is kind of out the window at that point. Whatever you don't have in your car with you is, I mean, whatever you have in the car with you is the only thing you got. There's nothing
and you don't
else.
want to leave your car, because that's even more dangerous if you get white out and it starts blowing the snow. Usually when it's cold like that, the snow's real light and it can blow easy, and any wind.
Up in Iowa was really that way.
Up in any wind, you would have all that blinding snow, and you can get lost in the snow out in the blind
and
whiteouts.
It's they're talking about this storm is going to push through to Kentucky and Tennessee. Well, it's probably
and
already there.
They just had a disaster.
They just had huge flooding, and people
rain.
lost their lives out there. And now so many of them have lost their homes.
Yep.
They've got no place to go. So, hopefully in the last couple of days, they've been able to arrange something else, but now they're coming with sub-zero temperatures and cold and blizzard right on top of it. So it's like, those are the kind of things that, even if in Kentucky and Tennessee, it's like they would have a very similar, I would guess they would have a very similar, crisis list as what we would here. And right now there's people that are going through that right now.
Well, you got to think of the layout of the land in the area too. Yeah. I mean, I never dreamed that hurricane would come up there in the Carolinas,
North Carolina,
and do damage like that. I mean, they're not right on the coast. You just don't think about that, but it happened, and it's like, wow. And so you really have to think about how far away you are from a possible of a flood or different kind of things that you need to prep for.
Yeah. And here in Southwest Missouri, we're I don't know, maybe 70, 80 miles from Oklahoma and Kansas, and we're probably only about 5 miles from Arkansas. And one of the things that we have to always keep in the forefront of our mind also is tornadoes, because there will be tornadoes around here that pop up every year. There's tornadoes somewhere around here. So we haven't had to experience one yet. We may never have to, but we did feel that one when we were at Rockaway. Yeah, we had one kind of come right over one of our cabins.
I opened the door and
I don't think it touched down. But it was swirling. We were watching the fishing island down there that's just right at our place. And it was throwing big wooden benches. I mean, it was going whoop, 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 whoop. The benches were just going everywhere.
I was watching, and I opened the door because I was going to video. And when I opened the door, it just went, and it went in a circle. And I've never felt that. One minute the wind was coming this way, and then it went that way. Yeah, it was weird.
We had
trees. There were some trees down.
Yeah, I was standing out on the deck of our cabin there, and the wind was blowing from the west to the east, and I was facing the east, so it was coming from behind me, but the house was behind me, so I really wasn't being affected by it. But the wind was just like totally blowing the rain horizontally, and I mean, just like that, it switched around and was blowing back my way, and I guess that's when the tornado just went past, and then just immediately right after that is when we saw all those
down at the dock. There was this great big huge thick steel beam that held one of the docks down in place.
It
literally bent it.
yeah, it twisted that right up. So
and they had to replace.
Yeah, so we went through a tornado down there, but it was
it was like
that was like, one time I went through getting hit by lightning.
And
so
and hell, that it held too, and then a guy lost his window, and I had hail on my car.
Yeah, but those are the kind of things that you have to prepare for. We got sidetracked down a rabbit hole.
Sorry.
But those are the things you prepare for. You prepare for, what is the next crisis? It's probably going to look a lot similar to the last one or the last 10 that you've had, because whatever area you're in or region that you're in is going to be susceptible to that same thing over and over and over again, at least on the common ones. Now, obviously, you can't plan for everything, and kind of some of the food shortage thing and the food issues are something that we also prepare for down here. And I mean, the egg thing is something that, and as I've talked about this for the last week or two on the blog or whatever else, I get the group of people that say, well, it's the chicken flu or the bird flu, and maybe so, and then you get the people that say, no, it's not the bird flu, it's something totally different and sinister, and maybe so. I don't know. All I know is that right now things, and I don't mean to harp on the egg thing, but it's just a symptom of, I think, a bigger thing.
Yeah, there was a lady, I was talking to my sister today, and she said one of her neighbors or somebody around there had killed a bunch of chickens.
Killed her entire flock of chickens in fear of the bird flu.
And she didn't have, none of her chickens had bird
flu. Yes, she had them tested, and there wasn't nothing wrong with them.
Bird flu, so.
It's a lot of times that stuff is motivated by, the fear that we have of kind of the unknown, I suppose. Yeah. And so, but just that being kind of a symptom, the toilet paper shortage was another one of those things that was a symptom of a bigger kind of a thing. And the bigger thing is a sense of being not prepared for the unknown. And so, as you go through your life, and whether it's like the food thing, we noticed that, it was probably about the time we started noticing when the government was trying to shut down our business, that, that there was a lot of things that were beyond our control. And so food was one of those ones that kind of was high on our priority list of things to be prepared for, because with that, you can't really isolate that to a region where you can sort of predict the things are going to happen. You really kind of have to be prepared for whatever might happen with that whenever it happens and whatever it is. And so we made a big effort to try to start growing and then, of course, preserving food in various different ways. Now, how many different ways do we got now? I mean, I'm losing count of them almost.
Freezing, freeze dryer.
Get my hand up.
I got a dehydrator, but I don't use
dehydrator that we haven't really used much since we've been here. Yeah. And then what else?
And canning.
Yeah, we do a lot of canning.
Two different kinds of canning.
Yeah, the water bath and the
and then
pressure canning,
like a cold spot for root cellars for your root kind of a thing.
Yeah,
like
and
sweet potatoes and things like that.
And that's a good point, because that's one of the things that we want to do, because that takes up, root vegetables takes up a lot of space, or it can take up a lot of space, especially when you get into like those monstrosity sweet potatoes like Shelly was growing this last summer. And that is the best way to really deal with them is with a root cellar. And we found kind of the coldest spot in our cabin, which is over by the front door down underneath the bench in the little storage area, where
you're doing okay there.
It stays cool over there just because it's near the front door and the heat doesn't make it all the way around to that quite as well. And
I forgot that we were bagging up stuff too. We used that machine.
That one we got here just recently. Vacuum sealing. We do that too.
That helps.
But the root cellar thing takes up some space, and just because the stuff is big usually. And so with that in mind, so with the tornado thing and the root cellar thing, and even just the regular canned goods storage, we are, if you've been following us very long, you know that we're building a house just right back over there. And and we got a good start in the basement before the weather turned cold. But one of the things that we're doing is right on the close to the cabin side of the house out here, we're building it's a 12 by 16 area in the basement that has block wall all the way around, reinforced block wall with concrete and steel rod, both vertically and horizontally in it.
And it's all the way down to the shelf rock, so it's attached to the shelf rock.
Yeah,
so
we're anchored into rock down there, and that's going to be a combination root cellar and storm shelter. And so that again is just thinking
ahead.
If we're going to be building anyway, why not build in something that is preparedness oriented, which is going to give us a way to kind of be prepared. Very brief hello. I'm unable to say. Blessings. Oh. Nancy, good to see you.
Nancy, hi.
Yeah, if you see any of our friends down there around Florida, tell them all hi from us. Yeah, Nancy is a friend we met a couple of years ago. And so anyway, what we're doing is we're doing the hello, darlings. So what we're doing is we're kind of combining a lot of the things that you would have to be concerned with from a preparedness point of view, and really turn it into a combination. The storm shelter is going to also have fresh air inlet and outlet, so that in the colder part of the year we can bring in cooler air, because down here in Missouri it doesn't always get as cold as it is right now, and so to have that cooler element down there in the root cellar part
would be good. It'd benefit.
We're going to be able to bring some cooler air in there, just so that it makes good for root and vegetable storage down there too. Yeah. And if you have any questions on it, just put that out there. But the thing with the eggs is that we don't. And I'm sorry for being hung up on the egg thing, but whenever they're talking about killing tens of millions of birds that produce kind of a staple product, and right now the pricing of them around here is probably about double what they normally would be. Now we still get ours from a local farmer, and their prices have not really changed any.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, it's like, are you prepared for that kind of thing? And we are not, when it comes to livestock, we're just, we've done that before, but in this part of our life, I don't think we're really that interested in the whole livestock thing, the tending of them and all of that every day. So we're happy to work with local farmers around here to get us things like eggs.
And
you could probably learn a lot from the Amish community in your area on preparedness. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. And they have, we are going to be tapping into them as a resource this coming year. We were kind of thinking about it last year, but we didn't, and we just didn't have time for it. But there is an Amish community. It's probably about 80 miles from here, a pretty big community. And one of the things that they have there is, and this is, speaks directly to the food and produce costs and availability, and really kind of how the stuff is growing too. If you're not into or if you're into kind of organic stuff.
Is the best.
Yeah. And so, but they have up there, every week they have what they call a produce auction, and anybody can go to it, but you don't just go there and buy half a dozen ears of corn and a basket of tomatoes or something like that. You go buy and buy a big box of them, and as many as you want to buy, I guess. And some people we know go up there and will fill an entire pickup bed full of the produce from the produce auction that they have up there, and come back, and that's what they'll can up and prepare up for their food, for part of their food storage. And to me, that's a really good option. It's going to be more expensive than gardening, but you don't have the time involved in the gardening either. So it's a trade-off, I guess. I kind of like, having being able to go up and pick the fresh stuff right out of the garden. But the stuff you get at their auction is real fresh anyway.
Real fresh, yeah.
It's just you're going to be paying for it a little bit. So you trade off paying for it a little bit versus spending all your time working on it. And this year we're going to be doing a lot of work on the house back here. So she doesn't think that we're going to have as much time to do gardening.
Time as much.
But those are just examples. Lillian, we're late, but we're here. Hi.
Hi, Lillian.
Good to see you here. I was chatting with her a little bit ago, and they live, I don't know, but 300 miles farther north than we do. They're up in southwest Iowa. And how cold did you say it was going to be?
How cold is it up there, Lily? Tonight,
like 10 below zero or something like that.
Yeah, she'll tell us.
Yeah, fill it in there here in a little bit. Say hi to Dave, by the way. Yeah. We're talking about just the whole kind of preparedness for, whatever the next big crisis is, or the next small crisis, really. Yeah. I mean, most of the time we're not dealing with a devastating big monstrosity crisis. Most of the time it's just the small things that sort of are an irritation to you and a disruption of life. Mm-hmm. And we had, the thing that's always kept me on the whole ice storm, snowstorm thing is that power outage that we had up in Ozark back.
Oh yeah, that was a
probably 20 some years ago, where we lost power in the middle of the winter for 5 days. And so we were on our own for 5 days. And
we didn't have any solar back then. That was when we were living in a town. And so we had to endure it.
Yeah. So we did have a small 1 below at the moment. Okay. Ooh. So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Well, we're supposed to be down pretty close to that tonight. It's going to
be cold here tonight.
I think they're talking like 4 degrees tonight, I believe is what they're saying. Yeah. But so we had to go 5 days. Now, fortunately, it only was just right at freezing. It was just at that sweet spot where it created ice, and but it didn't really go any colder than that. But it just ice took out trees everywhere, and so the power was out for 5 days.
It's 12 right now.
It's 12 right now. Yep. And so all of those things, I think too, as I kind of cruise through Facebook several times a day, and, I see people out there that are, you could tell they're just like on edge, because there's so many of them that know that they lose power, they're out, and they don't have a backup plan. And even my son, he's got a backup plan. They live up north of here a little ways, and
he just got his backup plan prepared.
Well, yeah, he's got a generator, but he realized that if you're going to have a generator and not try to power the whole house, but just various parts of it, you got to have extension cords. so he figured out that they didn't have enough extension cords to run stuff into the areas of the house that they wanted to. So he was down bumming a bunch of extension cords off of me yesterday.
We had plenty.
Yeah, we got plenty. And so he was doing that. And then plus he decided that, those little electric heaters, space heaters, just don't work that well. And they've got a pretty fair sized house. And so he was trying to figure out at the last minute how to get a propane space heater up and going. And so he was doing that. He was preparing at the last minute, literally. And there's so many people that are like that, or not even that far along, that they're not prepared. And it's like, okay, well, the last time this happened, hey, Melinda is there. Look at
Melinda.
You. Hey, is Marty there with you? Okay, so everybody that's out here looking at that list, when you see Melinda Smith, her husband Marty was the one that we camped with out when it was like that 25 below zero, 50 below zero wind chill. If Marty's there, let us know, because I'm gonna give him a bad time about that time we went camping. He's watching TV. Well, tell him that we're talking about him tonight.
Yep.
Or we were earlier. Yeah, it was good to see you guys. Yeah. And but so every time we go through that, all right, it gives you a cow patty daddy. There's a story there.
There is.
And maybe someday we'll talk about that. Yeah. And so I don't even go there tonight. Okay. So, but every time there's a crisis of some kind, it's just another indicator that we have something that we can prepare for.
Right.
For next time. Okay. And so those common things, if you haven't, there's really no reason for it, because we've all been through those things that are common to us. And
it seems like after we went through that cold thing that we had to in Ozark, when we didn't have power for how many days?
5 days.
5 days.
Yep.
Then you went out and you made sure that we had a propane wall mounted heater.
Yeah.
In case. So that was a good, if you don't have anything, them things will really put out the heat, and they'll help. So, you want to keep warm during that time. 100s. I don't know what she meant there.
I don't know. Explain yourself a little bit better, Melinda, there.
We don't know what that
means. I don't know
means.
what the hundreds mean.
Oh.
What?
I don't know.
Oh.
But,
so hundreds of stories. Yes, that is true.
Hundreds of stories. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, we could almost do just a story night, couldn't we?
Oh, yeah, we could.
Yeah. Maybe sometime we'll have to do that. We'll have to work you in on a split screen feed, and we'll just tell stories all night. So, but that's the whole idea. If whatever the next crisis is, you probably sort of know what most of them are going to be ahead of time, because you've been through them before. So just go to the extra work to get prepared for those. And then you can, start worrying about the bigger things later. I mean, we are, our whole food thing is something that we, I still haven't figured out exactly where I want to land on that. We know that we want to be able to have food stored up for a certain amount of time. But if you don't have any, if you've got like a week's supply of food and you want to be a little bit better prepared for that, then, work on a plan that gets you 2 weeks supply or maybe a month's supply.
Think about peanut butter. Peanut butter will last you a long time. And if you have some jelly, I mean, that'll give you protein. Yeah. And, you can live off of peanut butter if you have to.
Yeah. And we just did a video. We just, like we said recently, we just broke into the whole vacuum sealing thing, and we were doing a video. We had a sponsor that does vacuum seal bags, and so we were doing a video for them in exchange on that sponsorship thing, and so we were just doing lots of stuff. I mean, we were doing all kinds of things just to try to get a feel for what all we could do with that vacuum seal bag, and we did. Holy cow, we did the French bread pizzas, and sealed those up, and we did breakfast biscuit, sausage, egg, cheese burritos, or not burritos, but biscuits, and then
croissant.
Oh, the croissants with all of that ham and cheese and egg croissants that we sealed inside the bags. We discovered that, especially with the croissants, that when you start sucking the air out of them, you just need to suck it down until the bag is tight, and then you stop. Otherwise, you just smash the croissants flat. Okay, but actually you must rotate your butter because it gets old quickly and it gets bad taste.
Your peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Okay. Yeah. I go through peanut butter pretty fast though, so we don't give it a chance to go bad. Yeah. But I suppose if we bought 10 jars of it, it probably would start. Yeah. But so we were doing, what else did we do? We did, I did the ham and bean soup, the sweet potatoes. We did all of that kind of things. And today I opened up, because it was so cold out there, we tossed a brick of ham and bean soup. We froze it in these square little bricks. And
he put it on the stove.
Threw a brick of ham and bean soup into one of the cook pots and put it on top of the wood stove over here. And it was delicious. Yeah. So
we did Italian deer sandwiches.
Italian beef, only venison sandwiches. We did that.
We used the bread and did it.
Yeah, so there it was surprising what all we could do. Now that relies, most of whatever we did still relies on freezing it afterwards. Right. So you still have to be able to have the.
But I think with that, I think them bags prevent it from getting freeze dried.
Freezer burnt. Or frostbite.
Yeah, frostbite. Yeah. So that works. I mean, I was saying that, if you go to a meat market and find out that the meats are going to be on sale, you can buy a bunch of it and then freeze it, break it up and freeze it. And that it would help, keep that.
Our kids, they've got a big boat down in the Keys, Florida Keys, and we go down there, and when we go fishing, they will, as they're cleaning the fish, I mean, we cook some fresh, but then, we usually catch more than we can eat. So what they'll do is they'll clean them up and flay them out and put them in vacuum seal bags and suck the air out of them and then freeze them that way. And it works really good. Sometimes they've smoked them first and then bagged them up or vacuum sealed them. And we'll make smoked fish dip out of, what do they use? What do they call those things? Kingfish. Yeah, those are good.
Well,
they're like a mackerel.
And that fish that I caught down there.
Yeah, what was that?
That was a jack.
An amberjack. Yeah,
amberjack.
Watch your local ads. Buy and stock up the deals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Melinda
is sort of
a good prepper.
A pro when it comes to this kind of stuff. She cooks. I mean, she just cooks everything.
She's a good cook.
Good cook, and likes to find deals. Likes to be frugal, and so isn't that true, Melinda? And so we could get on a whole. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll see if we can get her, twist her arm into doing an evening with us on just food preparation and food preparation and storage and all that kind of stuff. Would you be willing to do that, Melinda? And but so I don't know. Well, if anybody has any comments, feel free to put them down there. And it's sooner or later there's going to be another crisis of some kind. Probably not a huge one. I might be considered obsessing. It might be considered obsessing.
Nah.
Okay. No, we wouldn't do that.
No.
Well,
I like preparedness. That's good. That's using your head for thinking ahead. The
last time that we were down here, she was talking about some of the things that she's doing, and she's getting cases of food and storing it and things like that. So it's all good. It's all things that would be good to talk about. So anyway, I don't know. That's what we wanted to just mention tonight was just, what do you do for the next crisis? What are you preparing for the next crisis that happens?
Not only the food, but when you live where you're living, what is the area where you're living? What could be some of the crises there that you need to consider and prepare for?
If you're in California, I'd put wildfires on the list.
Yeah.
Not I don't know how you'd prepare for some of that stuff, other than clean your yards up. Okay.
Will they give you a fine? I mean, are they going to be done
I don't
with that?
I don't think in California they let you clean your yards up, but it's like that's the most basic of prep against wildfires.
That doesn't make sense.
I mean, we do that around here. We've got a cabin that is in the deep middle of the woods, and every year when we get into the fall, it's not so bad in the summertime. But when we get into the fall, when everything is dry and leaves are blowing all over the place, we make sure that we get them blown away from the cabin because I don't want them to set my cabin on fire. And every now and then, I mean, we do have wildfires down here, so it's just they're not usually very substantial and they don't last very long. And we're allowed to clean up our area so that they don't happen. So there's my shot across the bow of California.
Hey, they may be changing some rules after this.
Hope so.
Trump's in office. Maybe he'll start making.
I guess he said, "Hey, clean up your act out there.
Clean up your stuff." Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, well, we appreciate you coming in tonight. I don't know if we're gonna drag this out too much longer, but
yeah, I don't know what else to say other than you guys stay warm and be cautious of what you do if you go out in this cold.
Hey,
bring extra blankets, bring some candy bars, bring some food with you, bring some water, and make sure you maybe get some of them hand warmers. I'm preparing you for this now.
Okay.
Get hand warmers or just stay home.
If you're not, just stay home.
That's
what
the
out
best,
there is so important.
Home.
That you've got to be out in.
I don't know if they might have shut the schools down. I don't know.
Well,
around here.
Around here, they probably sure
frigid cold and that ice and the snow, and they usually shut them down around here because we got a lot of hills.
Yeah,
the Ozark Mountains.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I don't know that we'll.
Unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about.
Ken, it was good to see you on the line here tonight. Lillian and Dave, it's good to see you guys here. I'm still threatening to come up and crash your place up there one of these days and spend a couple of days. Melinda, say hi to Marty.
Yep. Say hi to Marty.
She named him Cow Patty Daddy there. So
yep.
it's like, say hi to him. And thanks again. Remember, hit the subscribe button, the notification to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week. And we'll have a new subject. Keep warm tonight. May the Lord bless you. Thank you very much, Ken. Appreciate that.
All right.
And we'll let you go.
All right.
Have a great week.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.